Okay, I've talked about objectivity and subjectivity before. And the thing is, firstly, there's sort of a folk definition of objectivity and subjectivity. Something subjective, well, that's just your opinion. And something objective is more concrete and real. And there's truth to that, to a gradient, a range between those things. But upon closer inspection, it's just kind of crude because we find out that what this concrete objective knowledge is built of is lots of little carefully subjective bits of information. Like one thing that's easy to get an objective idea of is, okay, this lighter is blue. You can't see that, but there, maybe you get a little bit of the blue. Because of the kind of reliability of the visual cortex and so on when I'm, wakeful, there's a certain reliability, not 100%, but it's easy for me to collect some information here, some bits of blue information and the silver of it and the shape of it that make me, have a feeling of concreteness about, a theory of objectivity that this thing, so-called objectively exists. And I'm really saying, well, I have some subjective experiences that I expect are consistent. Like if I put it down there and look away or walk away and come back, they'll still be there. I'll have more subjective experiences. I'm taking subjective experiences of the color and the angle that I'm looking at from my subjective point of view. And I'm getting models that are able to predict future subjective experiences that may happen based on my behavior. For example, if I look at it again or pick it up, it'll still be there. So this comes down to a psychological issue of transcendence. People want to transcend. So you start off with something purely subjective. And you're like, I need some more reality. I want something more concrete. So you come up with these theories of figuring out which are the more objective perceptions that you get. Create an objective model. And then the person wants to transcend. They think they're going to actually leave the world of subjectivity because they've got this model. But that's living in a pretend world, because you're pretending to live in a real world that's still made of these subjective models. And so you're ignoring a main source of error correction that you have available to you. Because your knowledge of your own subjectivity and how this, what the criteria are, what the evidence are that take something from less subjective back into more subjective and vice versa. You're going to miss all of these subtleties. So it's important to realize, Now, some people might want to use this nihilistically just to argue to break down all the knowledge, but, the true issue is to figure out how you get really certain knowledge. And luckily, in this day and age, we have an excellent example of this. In science, their knowledge, which is some of the best predictive models possible in a huge area of the material world. They're all theories, it's just called theory. Because they're taking this approach that, well, you can't get objective certainty, but you can get really, really good models. You can test them, you can constrain where they predict well and where they might not predict well can become apparent. You start to measure their inadequacies and you can adopt them or come up with new models. And it works really, really well. So the illusion of certainty is one of the worst things ever for knowledge. The illusion of certainty gets people to think they have certain knowledge when they don't have it yet. So it retards severely the progress of growing knowledge. So it's just a fact of the matter. Now there's a separate question from the one I usually pose. I'm usually talking about epistemology. What can humans know? And there's no objectivity for humans. But there's still the question of, well, is there an objective reality out there, separate? And that's where physics comes into play, both quantum physics and relativity. Because things are in these kind of indeterminate states. They're in these complex states. You can still visualize them as a single complex state, but the important part is there's contradictions. Within the interval of the electron's wave packet, it has contradictory, concrete positions. Which position is it in? Well, until it has an interaction with something, it won't be in one of the particular positions. It'll be in all of them or none of them, or in a smeared out spread, or depending how you look at them. But it's definitely not something that gives an objective thing where we can say, oh, your velocity is exactly this. No, it still depends on the point of view. Something's velocity depends on the point of view from which you're measuring the velocity. So it seems to me that at every level, the point of subjectivity, if you abstract it into an agency-free kind of subjectivity, such that it's just a frame of reference or a point of view, a place that you look at the world or experience it, whether you're able to have cognition about those experiences or not. This element of point of view, and there is no one point of view that's like all of them at once, or the true one, or God's point of view. So it seems to me that this gives a material reality to subjectivity, and it's not just how we experience the world. But again, the most important thing is how we experience the world, and we're talking about epistemology. If there were some objective truth out there, but we could never get it, then we would need a theory about what we can get, the non-objective truth. So that's that.